Open the door and see what you can find, everybody. Welcome to the Football Ramble preview show. It's Premier League time again with Moyes up against Guardiola, and it's Friday 15th of September. I'm Marcus Speller.
I'm Eddie Russell.
I'm Jim Campbell.
I'm Luke Moore.
It is Friday, everybody. I told you it would be. Oh!
Come up, Speller again.
Hell away.
Here we fucking go.
Good to get that line in.
Get it in there every week,
well
in my
done,
view.
Luke Moore.
Yeah.
Well done. As if Friday couldn't get any better. We have winners for the book giveaway for Andy's new book, which is called We Play On, all about Shakhtar Donetsk, of course. Matt Williamson, Ben Stock, and Isaiah Fleming Klink. You have won the 3 copies. So please check your email inboxes and we'll be getting those sent out to you as soon as possible. I tell you what, I mean, Friday's fantastic, but for old Matty, Benny and Isaiah...
I mean, Isaiah Fleming Klink's one of the better names I've heard in recent times.
It's a good one.
Very good name.
Do you think he got it because he went in the Klink?
Sounds like he's, I was about to say, sounds like he's read quite a lot of books already. So will Andy's pass muster? Let us know, Isaiah.
Well, he's got another one there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for all who entered. We had hundreds of entries and we were really blown away by your kind words. So thank you very much.
We bribed you into doing a good review for the show.
Indeed,
and you did
yeah.
it.
So we know that we can bully you into that in future.
Yeah.
Great. Andy, what will people enjoy most about the book?
I think the access, because normally with clubs of that sort of size, Champions League sort of size, you don't get the sort of access that I was lucky enough to get these days. But obviously they're very open for a number of reasons. I want to keep the name of Ukraine out there. So you really get to know the club and the people involved.
I've got my copy and I can't bloody wait to get into it.
There we are, you see. Right, everybody.
Pay for mine.
Yeah.
I didn't actually, I don't think. No, that's bullshit. No, you sent me it. Thanks, Andy.
Yeah. Your alias.
Just realised I haven't paid for it 'cause it's not out yet.
Your alias is Ben Stock, of course.
That's me, yeah, exactly.
It
Yeah.
was all rigged. It wasn't rigged.
No, we can't do that.
We wouldn't do
We
that.
wouldn't do that. Not to our listeners.
Certainly not.
We'd fuck each other over, but not our listeners.
There we are. Hence, I didn't pay for Andy's book. I
No.
stole that copy.
Yeah.
Right. What are we looking forward to this weekend? Andy Brasser, why don't you go first?
I'm going to have to say Newcastle United beating Brentford to poke one in the eye of the Ramble after recent times.
What do you mean?
Well, you
The Piff Posse.
Yeah, the Piff Posse have been,
Oh,
have been suffering, haven't
because
they?
they've lost since we've been calling them correctly. The
So
Piff Posse.
Andy,
That's what
Andy
you're
wants
referring
the
to, right?
Piff Posse to have their day.
I just want my family to be happy.
Oh,
Really?
yeah, it's a fair
sounds,
point.
sounds like you want the PIF to be happy as well.
And I
Andy.
don't know any Brentford
You
fans,
look
so
basically-
they'll
by
be
the
fine
way,
with it.
Have they got to you?
I've been Jordan Henderson over here. By the way.
I know. Andy's
Annoyingly,
like,
I've.
What do you mean if they got
still
to me? If you're asking, am I Roberto Mancini's assistant, then maybe.
The annoying thing is, though, after what I said about Jordan Henderson, he's still got the right to be on this podcast, hasn't he?
yeah, but producer Finn's got the right to select him. I like that Andy, because he lives in Newcastle, has now become some kind of Republican Party congressman. Yeah, but I've got to go back to my constituents with this. You need to help me out here because I've got to go back to them. A lot of them are mental.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I was more worried about the Scotland thing the other day. But anyway,
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, there we are. You want Newcastle to be Brentford. Excellent. Jim, what about you?
I am looking forward to the potential debut of Ansu Fati.
Oh, good one.
Because
Yeah.
good.
if he can get his career back on track, it seems weird to be saying that for a player so young, but it could be a really big moment, like a really big moment in the future of a potentially really, really big player. It's easy to forget how explosive he was when he made his debut for Barcelona, so young, and how sort of exciting that was. And he's in a really good environment. I think we're all interested to see what Roberto De Zerbi can get out of him, and I think that's it's going to be one to watch.
What about you, Luke Moore?
Now, people will probably cast their minds and their eyes towards the Premier League fixtures this weekend and be momentarily disappointed that there's no Premier League game on a Friday night this week. They shouldn't be disappointed, because there is a game on that we should all be looking forward to.
You say this.
And, you know, back in October of 2019, Southampton played Leicester at home, didn't they?
We were doing a live show, weren't we?
That was
Remember?
that was it. We were in Newcastle, weren't we, at the time?
Honestly, you couldn't believe your luck.
Oh, it was brilliant.
Your ship came in that day.
Leicester won 9-0 at the Swamp. Right, beat them in their own backyard, and we were on stage in Newcastle at the time, and people were just shouting out, "They've got another one!" Yay! And it was, "We want 10, we want 10."
Do you remember Jamie Vardy celebrating the 9th in the crowd, up to them, pumping his fist?
So, look, I think Southampton this season under Russell Martin have got a bit of a reputation for liking to play some quite tippy-tappy stuff
Right.
with a bit of a lack of a cutting edge. Could Leicester punish them? Leicester look very good this season. Could they punish them? All I'm saying is, I'll leave it up to you guys listening and potentially watching tonight. I'll recommend you just put your feet up in front of the telly and have a good time.
Lovely. Okay, well, we look forward to that. I'm looking forward to João Palhinha playing for Fulham this weekend.
Oh, new contract.
Good contract.
Up yours, everybody.
Yeah. Is it
Is
true?
it airtight? Yeah.
Is it true that you had some kind of say in this?
Ah,
You have
got to ask yourself.
influence in the game.
Would I do that? Would I do that?
You know that famous picture of him apparently slinking off at Munich airport after the move didn't go through?
After he mugged him off.
Do-
That
do-
was a great
Do
joke.
you reckon he wasn't like looking at his feet? He was just looking down and signing his new deal.
Yeah. Where's the lower release clause bit?
I think Andy was looking down at the fixtures and going, all right, well, Luton at home it is then.
Yeah, exactly. Can't wait for that one.
Should be able to ease my way into that one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Brighton are playing tonight, aren't they?
Yeah, the Leverkusen. It's free on YouTube as well. Sky Sports YouTube. So if you
Ooh,
like
Andy's top
you
tip.
like a bit of free football, it was my OTC game of the week actually.
I like a bit of Harry Kane, Andy.
Yeah.
A bit of Harry Kane versus Xabi Alonso.
Go on then.
And
How
Granit
about that?
Xhaka. Let's not forget Granit Xhaka.
Let's not forget Southampton 0, Leicester 9.
Okay,
So,
okay,
At
there
the
we
same time. Double screen it, if anything.
Right, anyway, let's go to that league called the Premier League. West Ham United host Manchester City on Saturday. That's tomorrow at 3 p.m. It won't be on any television set in all of Great Britain.
If you believe that, you believe anything.
Legally, won't be on any television
Pete
set.
Dawson's back next week.
It's a big one at the top of the table. Manchester City at the top, of course. West Ham in fourth, eyeing up that top spot, Andy.
Yes.
Are we going to get a barn burner, a ding-dong, if you will?
A thigh rubber.
I think we might. I think it could be quite exciting.
Or do you think we sort of think West Ham are in good form? We're kind of liking their vibes at the moment, and then Man City just go there and win 2-0
That's
professional
exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Lucas
think?
Paquetá will be going, oh, God, this could have been so much easier, this game.
Yeah.
I was really expecting
From
this
the
game to
bench.
be quite different.
Yeah. If that had happened, I'd only have played 2 minutes.
Well, the big news, of course, is that Pep Guardiola has returned from his back surgery in Spain. And he was seen in training this week.
Oh, my God. Imagine him as your patient. Your heart would
Yeah.
just sink, wouldn't it? Sorry, can I have a look at the charts? No.
Yeah, I
fucking
Is that a heat map? No, it's
Yeah.
an X-ray. Okay.
Is he going to have more of a spring in his step now? Is he going to be sort of like back flipping about and
Yeah.
cartwheeling
Oh, that'd be
around?
brilliant. I thought there'd be more vertebrae. That's your penis.
Yeah, I think we're going to see you know how they portray William Shatner in Family Guy.
Yeah.
He's going to be a bit like that.
Bouncing off the wall.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we
I
hope
guess
so.
the real question is he going to grab Paquetá by the cheeks?
I also think, Andy, that this has got potential for Pep Guardiola to move on from Nathan Redmond and focus on Jared Bowen now.
Yeah, that's ripe for it.
Do you know what I
Absolutely
mean?
ripe for it. Yeah.
He hugs the touchline. Pep loves a bit of that. He cuts and he loves that ball between the centre half and full back.
It's not about grabbing star players. Actually, on reflection, it's not going to be Paquetá. It's not going to be Bowen. I think Mikel Antonio.
No, he's not a Pep type of.
No, but he's
is
the
he?
kind of.
And Nathan Redmond is?
There's a
Nathan
but-
Redmond and Tim Reamar.
I mean, it's got
This is what's
to
so
be a
brilliant about
player.
these little
It's got to be a player that
anointments.
would never actually end up in one of his teams.
Exactly.
Exactly.
That's
What
what it's got to be.
people miss is the patronising nature of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
it's
you're
like-
brilliant. Oh, I love how much great you are.
Yeah.
You're never going to play for
No,
me.
but the style of the play,
Exactly.
the quality is different. But you could see if Nathan Redmond was like a lot better. It's that skill set. It's like what he does. I think that's what Pep likes.
I don't want to play for you. You're sweating for your jumper, you mad bastard.
He doesn't
Leave me
sweat through
alone.
his jumper.
He has done.
He's not that sweaty.
He has done. There's a famous photo of him sweating through like a grey merino wool
But that was when he
jumper.
was an I'm a Celebrity. Get me out of here.
Love Island. That was Love Island.
Can you imagine him in that? Everyone would be like, literally, get me out of here. He's doing defensive formations with the grubs.
I'll do that. I'll do 8 hours in the coffin with the snake. I'm not sleeping next to him.
Oh, dear me. Well, yeah. It was also big news coming out of Manchester City that Kyle Walker has extended his Manchester City contract to 2026. He announced the news in the style of Leonardo DiCaprio's character in The Wolf of Wall Street. I thought this was quite good.
I think it's perfect, and it seems to be that no one understands, no one at Man City understands that the Wolf of Wall Street isn't meant to be a positive portrayal of that type of behaviour. Yes, it sums them up so brilliantly.
Yes, it does. It really does. But I was saying that it was Walker's, a performance was pretty good.
It was all right.
Yeah,
was
yeah,
excellent.
But we've been so used to such poor performances.
bar is very low.
Exactly, and that's partly why, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
I think this is a really interesting game, though, because there's a few games this weekend, most of which, if not all of which, we'll talk about on the show today, that are real good tests. Jim was mentioning this to me yesterday. They're all good tests of where teams are at. And I think if West Ham get a kind of hallmark result of whatever form, it's a draw or maybe even sneak a win,
Talk of the title.
you start to think, if you're West Ham, you start to think, hang on, this could be decent.
It's 1986 all over again.
Yeah, what's the scene? No, because, and I think it was Jim again who said a while back that, David Moyes in the past has got his teams to bounce back from disappointing league finishes. And of course, off the back of a trophy win as well. I think the atmosphere there will be positive. I think it's a nice time to play Man City as well. They're not fully in their straps, are they? I know they're top of the table, but that's the standard they set for themselves. I think traditionally it's a better time to play them than playing them later in the season.
Definitely.
Also got the quite exciting prospects of Mohamed Kudus. Which is, that is a huge signing. They've done so well to pull that off.
I'd love that West Ham fan to not go and watch the home game. Like, he just lives around the corner.
Still in Ghana.
Yeah,
Had such a great time.
Are you going to go watch them? Nah. I've already seen him play this season.
It's probably, I don't know if you guys said this at the time, but it's probably cheaper to go to Ghana than it was to get the train to West Ham.
I'd have thought so.
I'll just watch it on the telly. Will you now?
Probably could in Ghana, though.
Yeah, he probably
He'd be wise
almost
to stay
certainly.
there.
Yeah. Almost certainly.
Wonderful place. This is great stuff. David Moyes has confirmed that he hopes to re-sign Jesse Lingard. Come on.
Yes.
Come on.
But presumably, if they've,
Bring him home,
if they've
Andy.
not actually signed him already, and I agree, it would be great. If they've not signed him already, they had to submit their list for the Premier League yesterday. So if he's not on it, he won't be able to play until January anyway.
Cup
will he?
games.
Come on, Andy.
Yeah.
I think rules can be bent for certain people and
exactly.
certain things. He's been training with the Hammers for the past 3 weeks.
Which
is
I
that
think
not good enough?
Which I think is a joke. Sorry, can I just have a quick word? How much longer have I got to do this? Because 3 weeks is quite a long time.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I've got England caps. It's not that you've never heard of me.
So's John Joe Shelby, and he's left Forest,
He has.
Lingard's former club.
Yeah.
They had a
And
lot
that's-
of baggage last season, didn't they?
and
Yeah.
that's your fucking fault. In the words of
To quote
the great man himself.
Yeah, he's off to Turkey.
Yeah.
Of
Did he call
course
up Ferguson on the way? It's your fucking fault.
Just still, all of this is your fucking
Leave me
fault.
alone, John. I'm 80.
Oh dear. Well, yeah. I mean, what do you think of West Ham's chances? Look, more will Mikel Antonio continue his fine form and batter that Man City back line?
It's the clash of the two best lone strikers in the Premier League, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mikel Antonio and Erling Haaland. Why are you looking at me like that?
No, just But just for those who said he said lone strikers, not own lone strikers. Just before we get any silly sausage.
LONE.
Yeah.
I think based on what West Ham have done already this season, they've definitely got a chance. Absolutely, they've got a chance.
I mean, Antonio does love to work the channels.
Yeah.
Carl Walker's in one of those channels.
Yeah, avoid that one. don't bother going anywhere near that one.
Yeah. I tell you what, though, if
He's like Barry Manilow. He gets younger. He's just getting younger every year.
If Walker doesn't play, Antonio, his eyes will light up if he's not on the team sheet.
Oh, Walker will play.
This is funny, isn't it? That I think when you looked at Pep when he was in his Barcelona time, you wouldn't have imagined him managing in England with a back four of cupboards.
No,
and that's how it's turned out, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like he's got 4 Puyols, really.
Well, you're right. I mean, and to such a plumb last season as well, and even moving Stones a bit further forward at times as well. I mean, you could say he loves centre half. Where's his love of fullbacks gone, Andy?
Well, he used to be all about midfielders. He always said I'd pick 8 midfielders if I could. Whereas if you look at him now, what he's reached is like the perfect apex of what Diego Maradona was trying to do at the World Cup when he had 4 centre backs in his back four, but it didn't quite work out the same.
He played Jonas Gutierrez a couple of times at fullback, did he not, Maradona?
Not during that World Cup. I don't
Big
think.
Tony Pulis used to like doing that as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
In that World Cup, they also missed a training session because Maradona didn't get out of bed. The World Cup.
And there was one
You only
training.
get so many training sessions there.
There was one training session where they invited the press in, and obviously El Diego couldn't resist the attention, and they ended up doing about 45 minutes of just them all watching him taking free kicks.
He had a nice little game with the other coaches where he had a cigar.
He had
on
a
as
cigar
well.
on the go. Yeah.
I mean, I think with Guardiola, I just think he just gets bored, doesn't he? He's like a chef
so.
who's just a bit like, I know everyone likes this particular meal, and I've got lots of varieties from everywhere. Like, I don't know, why don't we just...
It's like Radiohead not playing Creep.
Yeah,
well,
like,
it's like
I'm going to
wealthy
cover a
people-
pheasant in chocolate and serve it up raw. What do you think of that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like wealthy people who can't stop renovating their house. It's like, it's perfect. Within 2 days, I'm going to change
Don't
this.
slag
I'm
off
bored.
Andy while he's here.
Who's the dead? Which house? Well, I'd say. Who's the dead pheasant in that analogy though? It's probably Phil Foden,
Yeah, I'd say so.
possibly John Stones.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Fabian Delph still at the club?
Get in the ice bath. It's full of chocolates. Get in it.
Stones would be a sport about it.
I think so.
He'll be fine.
Yeah,
they all love him. They all love him. They all subscribe to the.
Oh,
to
he's
the
a beautiful boy.
They're all subscribe to the cult, don't they?
Yeah, but I mean, if it's that successful,
Exactly.
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
There we are. All right, let's move on to Everton versus Arsenal on Sunday at 4:30. Arsenal haven't won at Goodison Park since 2017. We know Goodison Park is a real fortress, Jim. That is how, presumably, you explain those poor results. Can they do it this time?
I guess so. I bloody hope so, Marcus. 'Cause that is absurd, isn't it?
They should.
That is absurd.
Can you defend? Can you, in light of the fact that he's left?
Not at Goodison Park. We cannot defend at Goodison Park. No.
In light of the fact that he's had his contract terminated, kind of quietly on a good day to bury bad news. Can you defend anything about Nicolas Pepe's signing? Because that was a farcical situation.
It was a farcical situation. For those who don't know the background of it, Count Unai wanted very specifically Wilfried Zaha, who is a very different type of player from Nicolas Pepe, who is, essentially works fairly well in a counter-attacking team. And it was the wrong player at the wrong time. The fee was way too high, and he just didn't fit Arteta's plan. But I mean, he got 27 goals and made 21 assists for Arsenal in 112 games, which isn't too bad, really. He also, I think he was on loan at Nice last season, scored 6 in 19, didn't play for the second half of the season very much because he was injured. But it's not like he's a terrible player. But
it's the fee.
It's the fee.
That's all it is the fee.
When you get a player on big wages at a big club, no one will take them because of those wages.
Yes.
It creates this idea of this player that they're almost some sort of like they're not even a footballer. Like they're so useless that they might as well just like be scrapped and used for glue. I think
they're a
Pepe's an
leech.
unfortunate victim of that.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily their fault. I mean, he obviously really wants to play. He's gone to Trabzon, which is a really passionately followed club, but for not that much pay. Actually, and only a 1-year deal. Presumably, he's using it as a jumping off point, thinking if I can have a good season there, maybe I can get a good contract somewhere else. But I don't know. He was fantastic in his time in
Won
in
an FA
France.
Cup.
I'd love to know who because he was 79 million euros.
Right.
I'd love to know if that's the largest ever fee paid for a player who's had his contract terminated. Because I mean, it's absolutely astonishing.
Do you reckon that was
It depends what it was made up of, wasn't it? I don't know if that was add-ons.
But that's the Premier League riches. I mean, if you remember when China was splashing the cash and players would go there on enormous wages and so on, and of course they would kind of phone it in, or it didn't quite work out. Well, obviously the Premier League is very different to that. But when you throw such huge amounts of money around, inevitably you will get something like this. I mean, there'll be other examples as well. But Pepe's obviously been forgotten, I would suggest.
He's a forgotten man of
larger
yeah.
problems. But that, I just remember at the time thinking he's had, was it one good season or maybe two?
Two really good ones.
In France, yeah. And you think, flipping it, Lille have played a blinder there.
Absolutely.
Oh, of course, I can't believe it. They're rubbing their hands together.
Yeah.
Really, that the year before he went to Arsenal, Leon got 30 million bid accepted for him, and he refused to go. And he did Lille a massive favour because they definitely would have taken that 30 mil. And he had a great season off the back of that, and they sold him for nearly 3 times the price. But I think it's contextual with Arsenal as well, isn't it? Because this isn't Arsenal spending 80 mil on a player now. It was Arsenal then. And I remember when they did the signing, thinking, shit, I had no idea they could. I thought the whole point they weren't signing Zaha is because they didn't have the money.
Yeah, and also it's worth pointing out that this was under Raul Sanllehi and Sven Mislintat as well. A lot of people, when the board was really messy, there were a lot of people, essentially too many cooks, and none of those people are there anymore. So hopefully this is the last time we'll spend an absolute fortune on a player and then pay them to leave.
Well, speaking of splashing the cash and players leaving, Damari Gray has joined Steven Gerrard at Al Ettifaq. This happened last week. When he left, he had a little dig at Sean Dyche on Instagram. Did you see that?
Well, I'm not surprised.
Before he left.
He did it before he left, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Well, it said Everton fans have always been great with me, but it's so difficult to play for someone who doesn't show you respect as a person.
Yeah, he's probably looking at that absolute shower going, how can I not get in this team?
Yeah.
He's obviously going to be frustrated. I mean, there's been players doing that all the time, haven't there? On the Everton side of things, the Sheffield United game, which obviously ended 2-2, was a really good game, and it could have probably gone either way. It was a great game to watch last time out. But, Everton have been started the season like in a kind of quite troubling fashion as far as that they're not really doing what you'd expect a Sean Dyche side to do. They're not keeping it tight, really. They got absolutely smashed by Aston Villa. They were the worst. Doncaster were the better team against them, even though they ended up losing 2-1. The only
bottom of the league, Doncaster.
bottom of the Football League, Doncaster. Yeah. And the only kind of real green shoots you can see from Everton at the moment is just that they've got potentially new owners coming in, which is obviously people can't believe their luck about that. They'd be very, very happy for that to happen, I'm sure.
Not if they knew who the owners were.
Well,
anyway,
but the thing is,
on.
but they're in a position where they think it can't get any worse, right?
Well, we'll see about that.
Well, if that's the case, then
Well, I mean, the club's going to go out of business, Andy.
Yeah,
There's not that much more room to get worse.
exactly right.
Although I could easily be proved wrong on that
And
point.
you know what, Marcus? I just didn't appreciate Andy's tone there either.
I'm sure Everton fans did.
Very patronising to a fellow broadcasting professional, I thought, Marcus. I don't know how you felt about it.
Yeah.
And the only thing I was
Is that what you want? You just have to ask.
the other thing I would say on the pitch is that I thought that the encouraging thing is that Beto looks like a good player.
Yeah.
And apparently he's not even fully fit yet. And he was really the only shining light in that Doncaster game. And it looks like they might have actually unearthed a bit of a gem there. So that could possibly be a positive for them. I know that Everton won at Goodison Park last season. It really kind of stalled Arsenal in their tracks, really, didn't it?
Game, I believe, wasn't it?
Was it? Okay, yeah, it probably was,
so.
I think. Yeah, it was about 4 or 5 games after the mid-season break, wasn't it? And Arsenal were going great guns, and they just pulled that result out of nowhere. And then they didn't win for a couple of games after that either.
Yeah, and this all of that context makes this quite a psychologically interesting proposition, doesn't it?
It does,
Because the fact Arsenal haven't won there in 6 years shows there's a little bit of a block there. That's something for Mikel Arteta to navigate. It's also something that's going to put the wind in the sails of Everton. If ever they're going to play like a Dyche team, in air quotes, it's going to be in that sort of context.
And they did that in that last game, didn't they?
They absolutely did, and they did a really good job of it. And they could and should have scored more goals in that game as well. So it was a very, very bad day at the office for Arsenal. They need to approach it better and
Is it a
set
chance
the
for
agenda.
Kai Havertz, Jim?
Every game is a chance for Kai Havertz.
But this one in
isn't it?
particular, though, I mean, you get against
He was,
he
was
needs
really
to-
good for Germany in the week against
a
France.
lovely through ball for Leroy Sané's goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Doing well, Germany, aren't
Havertz,
they?
yeah. Havertz needs a big moment, and this would be a really timely time.
Yeah, I think so. It would be timely, Jim. You're absolutely right. Well, apparently the Athletic surveyed a cross-section of agents involved with the biggest transfers of the summer, and they voted for Kai Havertz as their worst signing of the window.
But how can
Weirdly tabloid from the Athletic. wasn't
Very.
it?
Yeah. Well, not weird for anyone who's watched The Athletic or read
Yeah.
The Athletic or listened to The Athletic recently, but the timing of that's odd as well, because I mean, how could you call it that when he's not actually really had a chance to play yet?
4 or 5 games in.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the way it goes in the media these days.
Stick the boot into someone.
Stick the boot into someone. But at least
Dude, why not do what we do and stick the boot into everyone all the time?
I know, yeah.
And you can't be accused of anything, can
There
you?
we are, you see.
Yeah.
Well, at least he played well for Germany.
Yeah.
Because I took heart of the fact that Raul Jimenez scored a few goals for Mexico. Okay? So I'm with
How
you
long
there.
did that take at Googling? He's Googling for any positive news.
I just get the updates. Now, speaking of worst signings, have you seen this from the Czech Republic? A Czech third-tier side have signed a 22-year-old who has never played football before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting tactic.
Yeah.
FK Ústí nad Labem. I don't know if anyone's heard of them, but they are sixth in the Czech third division. They've signed a law student. And the reason why they signed him is because the law student's father paid the club 17.5 grand so that they could presumably take him off his hands and into the club.
Yeah.
So, I mean, everyone has their price.
Just send him to boarding school. I can't. He's 22.
I mean, it's extraordinary, isn't it, really? It just goes to show that if you've got the money, you can just pay your way into any situation. And I fear, Jim, that this is going to set a precedent, and it won't be long until the Musketeer gets the last 10 minutes at Old Trafford. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I hope so. We can only hope.
We'd all be into that, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's only going to play for 10 minutes, apparently. But
Yeah.
Have you seen the pic? Listen,
have you seen a picture
I
of
was
him?
like, I'm hardly a racist
normal
snake.
looking bloke.
I'm hardly a racist snake myself, but he is not doing more than 10 minutes.
No,
I've
absolutely
seen the photo. I've seen the photo.
He's a big boy.
Andy and I played football for myself for the first time in a long time yesterday. Even playing 10 minutes when you're not very good at football against other people who aren't very good at football is really, really hard.
It's like watching two
Football's
people.
really hard.
It's like watching two people who can't fight having a boxing match.
Absolutely, absolutely. He's going to have a terrible time.
Well,
and
I mean-
I hope it's being live streamed somewhere.
I can't imagine the Czech third tier is a particularly high standard, but it is a standard.
Indeed.
Okay?
Yes.
I mean, the club chairman said of the law student, who will remain nameless because I don't think we've got his name, he has never played football, only FIFA from what I know, obviously the computer game. However, you don't just see money rolling on the floor every day. I love it. I just love the honesty.
Yeah.
Well, he paid 17.5 grand. Have you got 17? Well, your son can play. Don't care how old or tubby he is, get him in.
Tubby.
You know?
No one's just tubby anymore.
If someone gives me this type of money, I'll let anyone join. said those words.
Right.
Whoever's getting hooked for him is going to be absolutely fuming.
Yeah.
I also like how the Sun in their story basically felt the need to put this sentence in it. Football is a sport where talent is nurtured from the youth as players battle through the grassroots to academy programs before going pro. Thanks, the Sun. Appreciate you letting us know how football fucking works.
Yeah, silly sausages. All right, let's have a quick break.
Let's not take the piss here. I certainly wasn't. Well, I think you are.
Welcome back to the Football Ramble, everybody. Right, back in the Premier League, Aston Villa host Crystal Palace on Saturday at 3 p.m. Villa have had topsy-turvy time so far in the Premier League. They've beaten Everton and Burnley, as you would expect them to do. They were hammered by Newcastle and lost to Liverpool as well so far this season. Andy, what do you think of Villa? Obviously, last season under Emery, they were brilliant. They strode up the table and got themselves European football. Mixed bag of a start, but I mean, it's early days, and Newcastle away and obviously Liverpool are two ferocious opponents.
Yeah, and they're rebuilding their defence as well, which I think is the key thing that Emery leans on, isn't it? So that's been a bit of an issue.
Injury to Mings has been big.
Yeah. And the fact Diego Carlos is coming back from a big injury, that's a thing. The fact they've got an incredible amount of left-footed defenders at the moment is something that freaks me out a little bit, although that's perhaps my right-footed prejudice. I think...
Okay.
Not like everyone else. I think, like people say about left-footed penalty takers, they don't trust them as well.
Julian Dix said otherwise, didn't he?
Yeah, in very emphatic fashion.
Yeah.
He's the exception to many rules, then, isn't he?
To be fair, you had to go back to about 35 years for that there.
Yeah, it just
example.
sprung to mind.
I know. I saw how quick your mind worked there. I saw how quick the synapses went. It was very impressive.
Thank you very much.
Particularly for a man of your age.
Or Lionel Messi.
It was just
famously a great penalty taker, Lionel Messi.
Well, he picked up the pieces, didn't he, in the World Cup? Put them all away.
But he's clearly not
Let's
that
not
good.
argue about Messi's penalty taking
Okay,
ability,
fine.
okay?
I think you look at Villa and they've got the potential to be really exciting. I guess the big question over them, you feel Emery did a great job in that first year. They're obviously going to win the Conference League. That's a given. You've got that. You've got that already, as they used to say on Bullseye.
Got that in the bag.
That's safe.
Exactly. And I think, to me, I can't work out how they're going to stabilise the defence and get the front part of the team doing what it should be doing.
Yeah.
Because potentially they're very, very exciting.
Yeah. Yuri Tielemans has been complaining in the international break about his lack of game time at Aston Villa. He's a funny player, Tielemans. A lot of talent, and it was a surprise that Leicester signed him because people thought that he might go to Arsenal. He was linked to Arsenal for ages and so on. And one or two other clubs of a similar stature.
Man United as well.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And obviously at Leicester, won a trophy, but it ended in relegation, and now he's at Aston Villa. And he's struggling to get into the squad. I mean, what do you think about that situation, Jim? Because they do have, a midfield that we've talked about before in the past that's been pretty handy.
Yeah, essentially he's been complaining that Emery is using his midfield of last year. And actually, he can't have assumed coming into the club that he's just going to walk into that side because Emery had them performing really, really well. They're a really, really solid unit who all, work very hard, know their jobs. And presumably he's found that actually he can't break into that because we need it. The structure is there and it works. And I think he's going to get chances, isn't he? And he's bound to perform as well. But
they're playing a lot of games, aren't they?
They are playing a lot of games, and Emery is trying to build a big squad. And so far, that's what their signings have been about. I don't know, rotation essentially. And I think he's just going to have to be patient. Pau Torres is a funny one as well because it's taken him a little bit of time to gel. I think we all thought that Villa had arguably, the best window of anyone in the Premier League, you could argue, but it hasn't quite, clicked in the way that you'd hope.
Yeah, but if Pau Torres and Tielemans have been playing to the level of their talent over the last year and a half, they wouldn't be at Villa.
Well, that's the thing.
That's
about
the reality.
Tielemans, Andy. I mean, again, you look at the trajectory of his career. Do you think he maybe feels that he should be? Well, obviously, he feels he should be starting for Aston. But do you think he still thinks? I'm actually a real top quality player here. How on earth am I not starting for Villa? Because he's a forever starter in the Belgian side, of course, and it's been important for them over the years.
Maybe, but look, I think you can say that, James Maddison, despite Leicester getting relegated, had a very good season last season. Tielemans didn't. And so you've got to be prepared to roll your sleeves up and start again, haven't you?
Yeah, I think it's also, there's a little bit, and you understand why, because the players back themselves and that's how they get to the position they're in.
Yeah.
But he's coming off the back of playing for a relegated team, going into a team that have massively, at the very least, stabilised and risen from the ashes arguably, from the Steven Gerrard regime, and he's got to work his way in. It's only 4 or 5 games into the season. He's come off the bench a few times. He needs to work his way in there and find out, take an opportunity when it comes along.
2 or 3 years off to Saudi Arabia.
As long as that. As long as that, yeah.
You just said Steven Gerrard, and maybe got me thinking. In Crystal Palace, they are, they've had a fairly solid start to the season, you would say. Joel Ward has been singing Roy Hodgson and Ray Lewington's praises. He said, "It is contagious, their enthusiasm and their dedication. It is something that you feed off, and you see that in the way they are, and it rubs off on all the players."
Yeah, and
love it. Love it.
And it's great to hear, and I love the fact that Ray and Roy are still doing it. But what's kind of interesting to me is that Roy Hodgson is kind of the drug that Crystal Palace can't quite kick. And
you can't blame them, though.
No, you can't blame them. You can't blame them, but it's clearly not a long-term thing. And they have to find a way of getting beyond Roy Hodgson at some point.
But they are, though, aren't they?
But they can't be in a situation where they go another year. he leaves after this year. They go another year. It goes to shit, and they have to get him back again. You can't just keep doing that.
But they're working on changing with his hand on the till, though, because I think if you look at the football they played in the coda to last season, and then they've started okay at the start of this season. Obviously, Elise coming back will make a massive difference. Just by handing the keys to, if you've got that, we were talking about that balance between solidity and flair. If you can have that traditional Hodgson obstinance, and then you add to that Elise and Eze running the team, and Eze's cameo in Scotland. Jesus. I know we were talking about Jude Bellingham, and rightly so, but it was great, wasn't it?
He should have scored, though.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah,
the
first touch was great, but it was a shame he didn't score.
But,
it's potentially making Palace a very exciting team.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, but are they not grooming Paddy McCarthy for the role in future?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah,
that's
exactly. So there is a plan for...
Good. Okay, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, so they've got the future in mind. But we can enjoy the here and now, can't we?
Do you expect Paddy McCarthy in like a little nest as like a little chick?
Yeah.
And
Roy's feeding him little worms.
Yeah. Growing him big and strong.
Little tactical worms.
Although Roy did actually say about Eze, didn't he? He actually said, "We'll never be able to stop the vultures circling." I thought,
always aware of other birds.
Indeed.
You're referencing the bird of prey there. You've got an opportunity. You've got an opportunity to say we'll never be able to stop the barn owl circling.
Yeah. Well, he did say it's a strong statement of intent for the club, which was, about keeping those players, of course. I have good memories of last season. If I close my eyes, I can conjure up the images of those two causing plenty of problems for opposition defences.
This has huge ding-dong potential, doesn't it, when you kind of think about it like that, with Elise and Eze in particular, and how front-footed they are, and how there are some question marks over Villa based on some of the results they've had either way.
But they're potentially explosive as well. Yeah, I think this could be a barn burner.
There we go.
There we are, you see.
A barn owl burner, potentially.
Hopefully not.
Let's hope not.
Hopefully he flies to safety way ahead of time.
Indeed, yeah. And with Eduard scoring goals as well.
Yeah.
Some Palace strikers have not always had it that easy, so let's hope he can continue his fine form. At Old Trafford on Saturday at 3 p.m, Manchester United host Brighton. The big news coming out of Old Trafford at the moment is, of course, Jadon Sancho. He's been banished from the first team after he refused to apologise to Erik Ten Hag.
Are you going to apologise to Erik? Are you going to apologise to Erik?
Yeah. Well, I have in a way.
You don't see a lot of banishments these days, do you?
You don't, Jim,
No.
do you? I mean, it follows his social media post after the Arsenal defeat where he said he'd been made a scapegoat for a long time at the club. He was then asked to apologise to Ten Hag and then he refused. Manchester United were willing to sell Sancho to a Saudi Arabian club before the deadline last week, but he refused to engage.
Which is kind of
in
fair
any of
enough.
that. Yeah, it's up to him.
I would say there's a pattern emerging of players using social media to come out and complain about stuff. I don't necessarily have a problem with that in principle, but what I do think is the buck needs to stop with the manager.
Yeah.
And Erik Ten Hag, I mean, he won't be happy with how Man United have started the season, but he has given them a platform there to kind of really kick on after a lot of nonsense that's come before him. And I think one of the things that's been a hallmark of his regime so far has been, look, it's on me, and I'm the man to get rid of a Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm the man to send the players I want to pick.
Yeah.
And I understand he has to be like that. So I kind of totally sympathise with Sancho not wanting to go to Saudi Arabia. That's totally within his right at the age he is and the fact that he wants to play at a good level. I totally get that. But if he is going to come out and use his social media to complain about stuff that's happening internally at the club, he's obviously going to be punished for that.
No, but he feels as if he's been hung out to dry.
Well, he has been.
And if he's been spoken about in a certain way.
But he has been. But
Hang on.
the point is, no player's bigger than the
Look,
club.
we need
That's
to
the
hear
problem.
from the Sancho side of this, which is obviously represented by the Dortmund-loving Andy Brassel.
Andy Brassel, exactly.
Andy?
Oh,
Well, I think the eventual conclusion is obvious, isn't it?
He's going to leave the club.
The fact that, he's not just going to leave the club. I think Edin Terzic gets binned as Dortmund coach. Probably Julian Nagelsmann comes in the medium term.
Little loan deal.
And he gets loaned back to Dortmund. I think that's what he wants to do.
Yeah, I find this whole Sancho and Ten Hag thing, it's a strange one because I think years ago the general feel was you'd always back the club and the manager over this, and you think this player is speaking out, he's being very, very silly. And clearly, but I think nowadays there's less of that. There's still a bit of that, of course, but nowadays people think, hang on, this is unfair on the player. And a player has a right to speak out.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think this situation is a little bit different from what we generally see when like the Damari Gray situation is a great example. When we see this sort of thing where a player speaks out about a manager or a club, this is slightly different because I do think Sancho is genuinely the aggrieved party here. I don't think it was fair of the club to so publicly hang him out to dry and not expect him to have his right of reply.
But then the thing is, though, Jim, that you see, we don't know what's been going on. If Sancho has been poor with his discipline, if they have tried, and Ten Hag has cut a figure of being pretty fair on those who aren't going to put
He's
in
a disciplinarian, isn't he?
Disciplinarian, exactly, and we've seen the levels of performance at the club. The club is still a bit shambolic here and there. That's not Ten Hag's fault. You'd say largely Ten Hag's been playing his part.
He's swimming against the tide a bit.
Yeah, he's not been perfect, but he's been certainly an improvement.
Had a lot to deal with, isn't he?
A lot to deal with. And if he feels I'm one last throw of the dice, or maybe he genuinely thinks this could get a reaction because it has worked in the past with some players. I grant you, it's a lesser trodden path these days. Then perhaps one might have sympathy for the manager.
I do think though, if you try that and then that doesn't work, that's on you, and that's for the manager to deal with. But I think the issue is here, isn't it, that Sancho doesn't feel like he needs to apologise to Ten Hag. So they haven't got down to the business of actually sorting things out between them and clarifying it. So they need to keep talking this through. I would think they need to keep
I agree.
mediating.
And the way that United are approaching it, even if they never want to play him again, it's daft. Like
you devalue him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
I do think that whoever side you fall down, just airing your dirty laundry in public is never a good idea. And Ten Hag and Manchester United, they moved first on this.
Yeah, and also, let's be honest, there's another massive story at United at the moment, and everyone's talking about this one. And that's, you wonder if that might even be convenient at the expense of Sancho.
Yeah, you're going full Mataticio.
I was about to say a little bit of conspiracy there, Jim. It's a Friday, fill your boots.
Can I perhaps just offer
Paul McCartney is dead.
the newest one you could think of?
All right, Avril Lavigne has been replaced.
That's before the moon landing. Can I offer a slightly alternative opinion, which is perhaps going to be ridiculed, as sometimes becomes the custom? Jadon Sancho, talking of devaluing him and stuff like that, I mean, he has played quite a lot for Man United and hasn't really made an impact.
It was an odd signing. It was an odd move. He was so good at Dortmund, of course. And going to Manchester United, I understand people say, well, maybe he wants to come back home to England and, they are a huge club and et cetera, et cetera. I don't know, Andy. I just thought it was a pretty weird one from the start.
It's a bit like Chelsea, isn't it? In that if you sign one player and he doesn't get anywhere near his potential, maybe it's the player. If you sign a load of players who don't get anywhere near their potential, it's probably the club. I think that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, it's just a long list. Pogba have a shit attitude,
Well, I mean, constantly in the spotlight for negative reasons, though, Andy Pogba.
Yeah,
that's unfair. I just think that was maybe a poor example you used there.
This is a whole can of worms, but
I think that there's a lot to unpick with Man United. I think in this particular case, if Erik Ten Hag wants to actually put United back on an even keel, and let's not forget, they won a trophy last season, finished third in the Premier League, back up, and that's a reasonable improvement for a club of their size. Given what's happening elsewhere in the Premier League, that's the first trophy they won since Mourinho. Right, and he delivers them back into the Champions League. And he's shown last season, I don't think they've started the season very well, by the way, but they showed last season that if they build around him, he's the guy with the big enough personality and enough skills as a manager to make this happen. Regardless of whatever happens with Sancho, At a club like Man United, Ten Hag will be judged on his results. If they end up 10th come January, he'll probably lose his job. So if he's going to pick Alejandro Garnacho ahead of Jadon Sancho, despite Jadon Sancho costing a lot of money and Garnacho being a kind of academy player,
But that's fine.
that's on him. That's his decision. He's not going to realistically do that for any other reason. He doesn't think Sancho can do a job for him.
Well,
That's fine. That's fine. The way you publicly treat people and the way you speak about people, that has an impact, not only just on the finances of the club, as Jim was talking about, but in terms of getting other players to come.
Initially, when that quote landed, it was like, oh wow, he's saying he's been shit in training. But that's an inference from that phrase, isn't it? It isn't necessarily saying that. It's just like,
I think there's an opportunity for Sancho. I mean, look, the transfer window's shut now, so that's partly a problem, of course. But I mean, like I said, I don't want to come across as too old school, and I think players should have a voice and they should be able to kind of articulate how they feel. I think that's important. But ultimately, you're never going to win against the size of a club of Man United. You're just not going to win. And so, if he genuinely thinks that it's a problem there and that the manager doesn't fancy him, doesn't like him, isn't going to select him no matter what he does, Jadon Sancho may be sitting there thinking, I've trained really well. What chance have I got? Then he needs to go to the club and say he wants to move. That's really the only thing he can do. He's not going to help the situation by saying the stuff he said publicly off the reservation. And don't forget, Roy Keane's fucking done that, and Roy Keane's a legend at the club, and he got moved on. Now, it was easy for them to be moving him on because he was an older player and he wasn't improving and all the rest of it. But Man United need to understand the size of the club they are, and so they have to. I feel like they have to operate in a certain way.
If I may finish my point about how you can read those quotes as well, it could genuinely be read as, okay, he's not what we need for this game, for what we're planning in the next game. It could just be that Ten Hag has a very, very direct communication style. Perhaps it is sort of crossed wires and it's blown up into this huge thing with Sancho's statement, and they are just kind of... They're just at loggerheads now, aren't they?
Exactly.
Both thinking the other needs to apologise to the other, and it's going nowhere.
It's not about being in or out of the team. It's about the way you speak to people, and it's about the way you treat people. That's what it's about.
I mean, I suppose to chuck in a little extra something here, in December 2022, Ten Hag revealed in the press conference that Sancho would be unavailable for a period of time due to physical and mental factors as the attacker was battling injury. Manchester United didn't get clearance to mention his mental health struggles.
Yeah, and that's the crux of this, isn't it?
So I suppose, just bringing in that to the...
That's fair enough. I didn't remember that, so that's fair enough.
So, we shall have to wait and see there. But, I mean, something we can all agree on is wherever he plays, I mean, most likely at the moment, the Manchester United might not become January. We want Sancho playing because he's a phenomenal player and ridiculously talented.
Well, obviously, I think if Ten Hag knew that Sancho's got mental health issues which are affecting his performance, and he shouldn't have said the stuff he said.
But then you think about Klopp and Sturridge, and Klopp said a few things, and then he said at one point, he's like, yeah, but at some point, Daniel, you're going to have to buck your ideas up. You can't always be injured. You can't always, sometimes it's in his mind. And it was like, whoa, it was surprising he said that.
They've got to be careful managing those messages for sure.
Indeed. But yes, they do have Brighton to play tomorrow, of course. Evan Ferguson, Danny Welbeck are doubts, which is a shame because I love seeing Welbs play, especially against Manchester United. But Ansu Fati, Jim, could be unleashed.
Yeah, it'd be fun, wouldn't it, potentially? I think it'd be a really sort of huge moment for Brighton as well in terms of seeing a player of such a huge reputation at the club, and it's a real sign of how far they've come and how well established they are now.
Yeah, I think it's a good move for Ansu Fati because it's so much pressure for him back in Spain at Barcelona and so on, and it's very seldom do you get a teenager who really obviously wants it all. The aforementioned Cristiano Ronaldo is an obvious example. Even someone like Wayne Rooney, very different figure and very different, vibe, for want of a better word, than Ronaldo. But they were clearly, obviously, ready. Whereas Fati, yes, of course, he's played performance and so on, but being handed the 10 shirt,
it's great.
I think that's Barcelona.
I mean, that's what you want, though.
Yeah, but
it comes with its own pressure.
I don't know whether he wanted it or anything, but I just think if I was at the club at Barcelona, I'd say, let's just give it a season or two before we give you that jersey.
Yeah.
I mean, it's these little things.
But keep it on the Brighton side. I think this is a really great set of circumstances. Great timing because you can say to Ansu Fati, I mean, assuming he is fit, and he probably won't start the game, but if he's fit enough to make a contribution, it's fantastic for De Zerbi because he can say, right, make your impact. You're at Old
Yeah,
Trafford.
absolutely.
This is. I mean, he won't even have to explain anything about the fixture or the game. He just go out there and show us what you can do, and that's an amazing thing. And I think it's also a really good litmus test for where both these teams are at. Man United had a great platform last season, as I keep saying. Shaky start this season. Brighton will sniff blood and they will capitalise if they can. And it's a really great test of where Brighton are. If you go away and win at Old Trafford, no matter what the season, it's a great result.
It is a great result indeed. Looking forward to it.
Dean Smith also says you're an encyclopedia of football.
A what?
An encyclopedia of football.
I don't know what that means.
Nice to hear you call them the regime, because normally you refer to them as the blob, don't you?
Yeah, the deep state. I'm hosting this week because people are starting to get seriously concerned about the good form I'm in. So they've put me on the hosting seat. You know the game by now. If you don't, you'll pick it up pretty quick. I'm going to come to you first, Jim. And the first category in this week's Jack's Encyclopedia. And I think you'll like this. I think you'll all enjoy this. I think you will all enjoy this one. I was pretty happy with this category. Top 20 all-time Champions League goal scorers.
Oh,
Now, it does not include goals scored in qualifying rounds, Andy. And it does not include the old European Cup, again, Andy. So, top 20 all-time Champions League goal scorers in the Champions League era. Jim, I'll come to you first.
And I will go with Cristiano Ronaldo.
That is quite obviously correct.
Erling Haaland.
oh,
Erling Haaland.
Oh, has he played enough?
Frighteningly, that's already correct.
flipping heck.
Yeah.
Lionel Messi.
Why'd you say it like that?
Because I suddenly thought, did Jim say Ronaldo or Messi?
You're all in. You've all got the monkey off your back. One correct guess each. Jim,
Thierry Henry.
Ooh, like
you'd
that.
think so, wouldn't you? You would think so.
Mm.
You're right.
Robert Lewandowski.
Ooh.
Don't like your tone again, Andy, but fair enough.
You're welcome.
Quite dismissive. It's very dismissive of the game. Just respect the art.
Oh, I only disrespect Luke's game.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's absolutely fine. Yeah, that's what the listeners want. Marcus?
Roll? Surely.
Nice.
Of course he has, mate.
Yeah.
Of course he has, bruv.
He was Mr. Champions League for a
He
minute.
was.
He was. Jim?
Karim Benzema.
Ooh.
Karim Benzema, you say. Yeah, 90 goals, actually.
Benzi.
Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Good one.
Absolutely right.
Andrei Shevchenko.
That's also correct. If you guys are playing along at home, you have to be pretty quick because these guys are rapid, sticking them out there.
Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Ooh.
Correct.
Hello.
So you've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 left. You've got halfway through, Andy. You just have to remember the ones that have been said now.
Edinson Cavani.
Oh, that's a nice guess, isn't
Big
it?
shout. It's a big shout.
It's correct. Marcus.
Filippo Inzaghi.
Nice to hear his name mentioned. Get in the hat.
Get in the hat.
Absolutely. Waz Rooney.
Ah, yeah.
Wayne Rooney, you say. In the top 20 Champions League goal scorers. Afraid not, my friend.
Wayne, you little baby elephant.
It's surprising that, isn't it? It's surprising
yeah.
on that.
He was
but
there for so long.
Afraid not.
Baby. Big
Afraid
baby.
not. Andy, you're still on the hunt, mate.
It's Torres to give Chelsea a place in the Champions League final. The headline has been written.
Sammy Leto.
Oh,
Oh,
big shout.
Yeah, great stuff. Unlucky.
I thought you got one there.
Marcus, you need to name one and you've got the point, mate. And there are 2, 4, 6, 8 left to choose from.
Luis Suarez.
Luis Suarez, he says.
No, he's not in there.
Afraid not. So we go back in, Jim. You're back from the dead.
Oh,
You're like Lazarus.
God, I am like Lazarus. Neymar.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
The Neymar, he says. You're back in the hunt.
Well
done,
played.
Jim.
Well played.
Excellent choice.
Okay, Andy, it's on you, mate.
I'm going to go for Iron Robin.
Nice shout.
I don't think he's in there.
How nice can the shout be when it's wrong?
Exactly.
Marcus. Otherwise, Jim gets the point. Need an answer from you, my friend.
Mo Salah. Not confident with that.
I think that's right.
Back to you, Jim.
Oh!
It's a great
Well,
round.
really,
The
really good
drama's
round.
unbelievable.
Isn't it? Okay.
I've had enough of this.
Hernan
now.
Crespo.
Hernan Crespo.
Oof.
Where's that come from, Jim?
Milan.
Afraid not. Marcus.
I'll have Gonzalo Higuain then.
Gonzalo Higuain. Fucking hell, boys. No one gets the point. No one gets the point.
Okay, who else did we have?
You've had a chance to go around again. No one gets the point. You're all out. You could have had all the players you had, you obviously named. The ones you didn't name that you could have had very quickly: Alessandro Del Piero, Fernando Morientes, Kylian Mbappe.
Do you know what? I had Mbappe down.
Sergio Aguero.
Do we not?
And the last one was Thomas Müller. If you're interested about Wayne Rooney, which is a surprising one, he only got 30 Champions League goals, which means he's not in the top 20. I think you need 35, which Erling Haaland has got. He just sneaks in there. Okay, number 2, Andy, we're coming to you first.
Okay.
We would like to name the 20 most southerly clubs in the Premier League and English Football League. So at the time of recording, they need to be Football League or Premier League clubs. You can just name the club. You don't need to name the stadium. Just name the club. The 20 southerly most clubs in England.
Just for you, my love, Southampton.
Am I joking? That's right.
I genuinely panicked there. Yeah.
Marcus.
Portsmouth.
Yeah, you can have that one.
Thanks.
It's the only way they're getting in this fucking round.
Bournemouth.
Yeah. There's all your South Coast ones.
There we go.
Andy?
Brighton.
Oh, no, it's not your South Coast ones. There you go. Yeah.
Plymouth Argyle.
Absolutely, of course. Plymouth are in there.
Ooh.
Okay, Jim.
Southend.
Oh.
Southend. You'd think so, wouldn't you? You would think that Southend would be in there. They're not, though.
Yeah, I was thinking.
Afraid not, I'm afraid.
Exeter.
Exeter City has got to be in there, haven't they? Of course they are. They're in Devon, for goodness sake.
Yeah, of course they are.
Marcus?
Are they in the Football League still? Ah! Yeovil Town.
No, they're not.
Bollocks.
Andy gets the point.
Andy does get the
Andy
point.
gets the point.
I thought I had another one where I had to...
No, you're all right.
Brentford, you could have had Bristol. I mean, basically, you could have had pretty much
Yeah.
quite a lot of London teams. Brentford, Bristol City, Bristol Rovers, Cardiff, Charlton, Chelsea, Crawley Town, Crystal Palace, Fulham, Gillingham, Millwall, Reading, Sutton United, and...
AFC Wimbledon.
Of course, AFC Wimbledon.
Uh,
Andy gets the point there. So the final question, Marcus, you get to go first. You guys are all within the chance of winning. We might have to go to a tiebreaker here. Jesus. The 20 goalkeepers who've made the most appearances in Premier League history, Marcus.
Blimey.
Quick game's a good game. 20 goalkeepers with the most appearances in the Premier League. Off you go.
David James.
I think he's number 1, isn't he? Certainly correct.
Petr Cech.
Petr Cech, he says. Yeah, 443 appearances. That's in there.
Peter Schmeichel.
Peter Schmeichel, 310. Obviously, I've just noticed there that Andy went ahead of Jim, but it doesn't matter because you both got the question right. So we'll go back to the proper order. Marcus.
Joe Hart.
Joe Hart. You'd think so, wouldn't you? How many do you reckon he's done?
Couple.
Yeah, more than that. Jim, it's you.
David Seaman.
That's also correct. Andy.
Jens Lehmann.
Oh, like to hear him get a mention. He's not in there, though. Marcus. It's exciting now because Andy could be out here.
Yeah, he could be.
In fact, Andy is out here because you went first. So Andy is out.
Shay Given.
Ooh, lovely.
Oh, nice.
Stray Given's in there. Jim, you need to get this one right.
Big Neville Southall.
Big Nev.
You just handed the point to Marcus.
Premier League.
Premier League. No, I'm afraid not. So Marcus gets the point. So Ben Foster, Brad Friedel, David De Gea,
Friedel, yeah.
and Edwin van der Sar, Hugo Lloris, Ian Walker, UC Jaskalainen, Lucas Fabianski,
Wow.
Mark Schwarzer, Nigel Martin, Paul Robertson, Pepe Reina, Thomas Sorensen, and last but by no means least, Tim fucking Howard.
Oh, right. Tim Flowers is not in there. You didn't mention
He's
him.
not. I didn't mention Tim Flowers
yeah.
because he's quite simply not in the list.
Yes.
Okay, the
That'll be why.
tiebreaker is between Andy and Marcus.
Oh.
Jim, you're out in the cold. This is the final one to see who wins. It's pretty straightforward. There's 15 potential answers. And I think we're going to have Andy go first. Andy's going to go first on this one because you went first in the last game. Dutch players who have played for Man United in the top flight. They need a Premier League appearance, at least one. Dutch players who have played for Man United in the top flight. Andy, off you go.
Memphis.
Correct.
I don't care about any of the rest of them. Just
We're
Memphis.
not doing full names.
Depay.
Edwin van der Sar.
Yep. Andy.
It's Torres Torres.
Oh, early.
In the Champions League final. Come on, Andy. Has been written.
Oh, Marcus, what an opportunity you've got here, because that is a wrong answer by definition.
For you, Jim, Robin van Persie. I could have said Yap Stam, of course, but I'll go Robin van Nistelrooy. Yeah, Rude as well.
Yeah, already got mentioned.
I'm surprised that you're there, Andy. I was desperately trying to... Is it... what's his name? Butland's name, or... Butner. I was trying to remember his first name.
Yeah.
Alexander Butner was correct. Arnold Muren, Daley Blin, Donny van der Beek, Jaap Stam, Jordi Cruyff, Raymond van der Hau, Ruud van Nistelrooy, Tahith Chong, Timothy Fosu-Mensah, Tyrell Malacia, and of course, the legend himself, Big Wout Weghorst.
Big Wout Weghorst.
There's a lot in there. Marcus, well done.
Yeah.
Well done. You came back from nowhere then. You were well behind.
Yeah.
Didn't look like you were having an interest in the game, and then you turned it around. And that's what makes you such a good player, mate.
Thanks.
When I'm hosting.
Where we are, everybody. Well, thank you very much for listening to the Football Ramble preview show sponsored by Betfair, part of the Acast Creator Network, of course. Follow us on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram at Football Ramble. And don't forget to subscribe on your podcast app. Here they are, everybody.
The weekend's open.
In they go. Get your pit bull on. Get out there and shake whatever you can. Thank you very much, Luke Moore.
Enjoy Fulham 0, Luton 1 this weekend.
Thank you, Jim Campbell.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy Brassel. And thank you, Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Thank you for watching a clip from the Football Ramble podcast. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an upload. A single upload. Don't miss out on the uploads. The uploads are important.